Hi guys, welcome back. So I had that heart in the mouth moment today when an email from the RFU, the title was Law Variations Approved to Lower Tackle Height in the Community Game in England. And I thought, oh no, they have approved the waist high and below tackle. Now I've done big videos on that and I thought it was completely unworkable because waist and below you've got some very hard areas, hips, knees, you can get very easily concussed tackling low. I didn't think that was going to solve the problem. I thought it might ruin the game. We've done votes on it, etc. So it's not that, thankfully, but it is something else, something different we'll talk about. I'm not 100% decided on my opinion on it, so I'm going to give my initial reactions. I'd love you guys to help me with what you think about it. Okay, let's get straight to the headline. The change in the law for dangerous tackling, 9.13. So a dangerous tackle includes, but is not limited to, tackling or attempting to tackle an opponent in open play above the base of the sternum, even if the tackle starts lower. So above the base of the sternum is quite a big difference from above the waist, and it makes sense, as in you are including that soft area, the stomach area if you like, the midriff, whatever you want to call it. That is the softest area. It's not the most dangerous place to tackle. Sure, you could wind an opponent, but no, that's not dangerous, just unpleasant. You could break a rib, very unpleasant, but you wouldn't say it was dangerous. I guess you could lacerate a kidney, but that's rare, so that makes sense. I mean, whoever came up with the initial law saying waist or below, that was just crazy, and releasing it without this consultation, why did they do that? That was nuts. But anyway, this is what we've got. Do I think it would work? Well, yeah, I think it's workable. There's definitely some caveats there, some things I'm not sure about, which I'll discuss, but I think it doesn't destroy the game, which I think the waist and below could have done. It's only in England. Of course, the RFU only has powers in England. It's only for the community game, and let's discuss that quickly. Community game, not the professional game. Why wouldn't you do it in the professional game as well? Now, the RFU could say the Premiership has to take this law on board as well, but then you'd have players going to international where they've got completely different laws, and it would muck them up completely. You just couldn't do it. So I understand why you can't do it in the professional game in England, but it's definitely not fair. You're going to be watching on TV potentially a different game to what you're playing at home in your club, if you like. Could I have lived with this tackle? Well, yes, I could, because I tackled, I was in the outside backs. I tackled low all the time. I never did a high tackle in my life that I remember. Never really missed a tackle that I remember. Please let me know if you remember me missing a tackle in 15s. I remember missing one in 7s, and that still hurts. But yeah, I was tackling low. I wasn't a big guy. People were generally upright because they were running fast in the outside back, so that was easy for me. But in tighter, in the forwards, sternum below, that's going to be really, really tricky. We did a vote, didn't we, on the channel, and we came up with armpit and below, because then you could actually have a manufacturer line on a shirt under the armpit of the shirt, which is a nice simple way of defining it. The refs could see a line and maybe they'd have a chance of officiating the law there. The neck's obviously an easy one to know where that starts, maybe unless you're a tight head prop potentially, but anyway, that's easy. But sternum and below, start at the base of the sternum, it's very subjective. It's going to be a nightmare for referees to officiate, so good luck to them. I think they go and say there needs to be some understanding in officiating this law. It's going to be really, really tricky. Initially, things you can't do, certainly the choke tackle in the community game in England, you're just not going to be able to do that, because you're going to be making contact above the sternum if you want to do that, inevitably, to be honest. A couple of other law changes of note. These are all coming in 1st of July. 9.11a, a player must not do anything reckless or dangerous to others, including leading with a head, shoulder, elbow, forearm, jumping into or over an opponent. Okay, fine. The issue there is reckless includes not doing it deliberately. It could just be something silly you didn't mean to do. It can still be reckless, and that's going to be very difficult for referees to interpret. And a lot of things I think are rugby incidents, but I think there's going to be a lot more penalising of reckless play. Whether that's right or wrong, I just don't know. I think maybe it's unworkable, but let me know what you think of that one. Sometimes there are just accidents you don't mean to, and you kind of have to play on. Otherwise, the game would just grind to a halt. So that's the kind of issue I see there. But I understand the intent. 9.11b, this is interesting. Ball carriers must not lower their height significantly before contact with an opponent in open play. First of all, there's that word, significantly. What on earth does that mean? It could change from one ref to the other. Obviously, they're going to try and standardise it, but it's always going to be subjective. And also, when you're carrying a ball, especially in tight areas, that's what you coach. Go low, bring your height down at least a bit so you don't get bumped over, you don't get knocked back, you don't get held up. Thinking back to Nathan Hughes for England, one of the reasons he didn't make it for England, I believe, is he went into contact far too high. And if he was a little bit lower, like Billy Vunipola, who just arcs over a little bit, now you're a lot more successful there in contact. So what is significant? Again, I understand the idea there that you don't get ball carriers just ducking their head down, forcing opponents to make high tackles. I get that, but maybe they could have worked it where saying that if you do lower yourself significantly, then, it's tough if you get tackled high, if you like, if someone has to grab you kind of round the shoulders and neck because you've kind of gone into them crazy low. I don't know, that's going to be a nightmare to officiate as well. The rest of the email was kind of fluff building up to that law change, of course, but a few interesting things I'm going to pick up. They're going to bring out some material, some videos. That'll be interesting to see how they explain this law. Obviously, the sternum, the beginning of the sternum, is a physical point, but how can refs tell where it is in the game? It's going to be so hard. And one point here that I thought was a bit rich, there's a requirement to encourage change in tackle height in the elite game. Yeah, that's not going to happen. In professional sport, you only do things if it's a law, if it's litigated against. You don't do it because someone's encouraging. If it's effective, you do it. So that's not going to happen. That's just a bit ridiculous. The last thing I think was interesting, almost half respondents agree that the head and shoulders should be above the hips when taking the ball into contact. That's all very well, but what if it's a pick and go? What if it's tight around the ruck? You're going for a try. I'm not sure that's workable. Let me know what you think. And some people think there should be a set distance in which you must not lower your body height. How on earth would you govern what that set distance is? I don't know. So there's so many questions here. So those are my initial thoughts on it. Some relief that it's not waist and below. I think it could be workable in the community game. I probably prefer the one that we came up with, the armpit line on the playing shirt. I think that would be slightly better. But we will have two games now, the professional game, which is below neck, and the amateur game, the community game. So two different games, people trying to progress into the professional game. It's going to be really tricky. This is going to be so hard for referees, and around that pick and go, that tight area, I see there's a lot of issues. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Those are my thoughts. Is it going to work? Is it a good idea? Is it going to catch on? And I'll see you next time.